All right. Well, welcome to today's Wealth Clinic with me, Dr. Yewande, your finance friend. And today we're going to be talking about this topic of overspending. It's something that, for some reason, I always get questions about. Always get questions about overspending. And so I thought that today, being Black Friday, we're going into the long weekend or the week of shopping, right? It's holiday season. Everyone is excited about buying gifts, getting ready for the Christmas period, the holiday period. And so this is the perfect time to discuss overspending because I believe what we're going to discuss today is going to be helpful, especially to set you up for a great start to 2022. Because usually what happens is people spend all their money this time of year, 2022 starts, and already you're feeling behind. And so hopefully with the strategies we discussed today, you'll be able to end 2021 strong and start 2022 even stronger. And so already I have a question which says, I would like to know how to tackle Black Friday impulse. And the strategies that I'll talk about today will definitely be helpful with that. Okay, so thank you for that question. And so I know how it feels. Believe me, I know how it feels to get caught up in excitement when it comes to shopping. Even till today, if I don't implement the strategies that I'm talking about, I find myself overspending, right? Amazon used to be the place where almost on a daily basis, I would go and pick something up. In fact, I have one of my Amazon purchases here. I've had this thing for about it'll be 2 years, this 2 or 3 years, this December. And I keep it. I don't know if you can tell what it is. It says fabric shaver. It was just one of those ridiculous random purchases. It's one of the an electric lint remover. I guess because it was cold, all my sweaters had all these lint balls on them, and I was getting tired of picking them off. And I thought Amazon must have something for this problem. And so I went on Amazon, found this electric shaver, used it once. It was a piece of rubbish, wasted my money, and that was the end of that. And I wish I could say that that's the only rubbish purchase that I've made online. But the truth is, it's not. It's not. I would find myself constantly going online and buying all sorts of random things that did not make sense, overspending. And the truth is that if you spend $20 here, $40 there, $60 there, it all adds up, right? And that's money that could have been saved towards something else, whether it's towards your investment, whether it's towards paying off debt if you have debt, whether it's towards paying off your mortgage or your car faster. The truth is that many times we may waste money. Maybe for you, it's not Amazon. Maybe it's all those annoying Instagram ads that show you these cute outfits, right? The cute rompers, mommy daughter clothes, pajamas, all those things that come up. And today being Black Friday, going into Cyber Monday, the shopping week, there's a lot of temptation right now, a lot of temptation. And if we're not careful, we get swept up into that. What about grocery shopping? How many of you go to your grocery store? Maybe you have a list, and by the time you get there, your list has pretty much doubled, right? You go down the aisles and you're like, oh, we need this, or oh, we need that, or oh, we need this. And you're constantly adding to your list. And by the time you get to the checkouts, right, you have doubled what you intended to spend. Or maybe it's makeup. Maybe you go to the grocery store to get food. Before you know it, you're in the beauty section, you're picking up eyeliner, you're picking up concealer, you're picking up hair products, right? All those things add up. And believe me, I know what it's like. I know what it's like. And so if you're here today, or if you're watching this on the replay, these are just a few check marks for you to determine whether or not you actually do have a challenge with spending, whether you do have a challenge with a spending habit. If you don't know where your money goes at the end of the month, right? It's the end of the month, you log into your account and it's like you didn't even get paid. You have no idea where your money went. Or maybe you've gone shopping and as soon as you swipe your card, as soon as you tap, you feel bad, you feel guilty, you feel disappointed, whether it's in yourself or in the purchases, or you feel irresponsible after making those purchases. Or maybe you've tried many different things and for some reason it works for 1 week and then the next week you're back at it again, or you just can't, no matter how much you try, you can't seem to prevent yourself from going into this spending habit. Or maybe you're hiding packages or you're hiding your bank statements because there's already this sense of tension between you and your spouse, right? Your spouse doesn't trust you when you're going shopping. Your spouse is saying, make sure you only buy what you need, right? Because every time you come back with things that you don't need, maybe it's causing a little bit of tension. Or maybe you find yourself constantly thinking about shopping. What am I going to buy next? As soon as you buy something, you're already thinking about that cute thing that you saw somewhere that you want to buy. These are all signs that you might have a spending habit. And so today, I want to explain to you that, first of all, this is all in the mind. And what I mean is that the reason why shopping can be addictive, for lack of a better word, where we sort of get into that impulsive zone where we're not really thinking about our purchases, we're almost on autopilot, is because it's happening in the mind. And what does that mean? Habits are repetitive patterns of behavior, right? Something that you do over and over and over again to the point where sometimes you don't even know, you're not even conscious when you're doing it. And the reason why shopping can become this type of automatic behavior, can become a habit, is because as you're shopping, it feels good, right? It feels good to buy something in the moment, whether it's the tiniest piece of jewelry or whether it's up to a set of shiny appliances or even up to a brand new home. When you purchase something, it releases what we call neurotransmitters in the brain. And that's just a fancy term for some chemicals, in the brain that make you feel good, right? Many of you may have heard of the expression a runner's high. A runner's high is when you're exercising, and as you're exercising, you start to feel high, you start to feel good. It's because in our brains, there's a release of chemicals that mimic, to be honest, they mimic a drug, they mimic getting high. And that's why you find that people get addicted to shopping because it feels good. And our brains love to repeat behavior that will release these chemicals. And that's why we find ourselves getting into that pattern of spending. You log on Instagram, or maybe it's Facebook. The next thing you know, an ad pops up. And before you know it, you've spent an hour adding dresses to your cart. It's because it feels really good. The problem is that money, it's important for us to manage it, right? We can't just spend impulsively. We can't just spend unintentionally. We can't spend without a plan, because at the end of the day, we're going to pay for it, right? At the end of the day, no pun intended, we're going to pay for reckless, unintentional, impulsive spending. And so what do we do? I'm going to run through a list of 8 strategies that I believe will be helpful for you in trying to manage your overspending, impulsive spending, whether it's now during Black Friday or whether it's further down the line in your day-to-day shopping, your day-to-day groceries, etc. The first step that is often very helpful is to, first of all, raise your level of awareness when it comes to how much you're actually spending. To be honest, you might not even know the extent to which your spending is impacting your finances. And the first thing that I always recommend is for you to pull, whether it's this past month's bank statement or the month before that, ideally the past 3 months, your bank statements, your credit card statements, and actually take a look at how much money you spent on things that were not essential, right? Write them down, add them up, you can even highlight them and add up that amount. Because when you do that, if you're anything like me, you're going to feel sort of a sense of shock and a sense of like dread, because all of a sudden you realize that you've been spending your money mindlessly, right? This was when I first started getting my act together with my finances. This was one of the first things that I did. I printed off my bank statements and I went through it line by line to notice that I was just spending way too much money on Amazon. And so many of us aren't even aware of how much money that we're spending. We're not aware that we're spending so mindlessly. So the first step is to actually print off your bank statements, your credit card statements, and actually go through every item line by line, highlight all your expenses and add it up and take a hard look at that number. There's something about seeing that number in black and white on paper that gives you a jolt of reality, that gets you on that track of really getting your act together when it comes to your money. So that's the first step. The next step is to pay attention. Maybe as you're going through your bank statements, you might start to notice a pattern. You might start to notice that a lot of your purchases are going towards a particular store that you find yourself going to, whether it's because of email marketing, right? Many of us have subscribed to all sorts of emails where we're getting notifications. This thing is on sale, buy now, one-time offer, last time offer, right? And we sort of get sucked into but making all those purchases. Or maybe, like I mentioned, it's Facebook or Instagram, whatever it might be for you. For me, I remember when I worked in the hospital in the emergency department, every time I did a night shift, right, I would always make my way to the fast food joint close to the hospital, A&W. I would make my way to buy a chicken burger and eat it on the way home. And so I knew, once I realized that that was my trigger, what I started doing was, instead of taking the exit of from the hospital that would take me past A&W, I would take a different exit, right? So once you notice what your triggers are, it's time to start avoiding them. So maybe it means not going to the store that you know that every time you go to that store, instead of walking out with one item, you walk out with 10 items. Or maybe it means unsubscribing from all those emails that tempt you to buy. Maybe it's unfollowing some Instagram accounts, right, that tempt you to buy. Maybe it's hiding ads. Maybe there's a particular store, like I mentioned, that keeps coming up for you, and that's the place you always buy from. Maybe you need to tell Instagram or Facebook to stop showing you those ads. So once you notice your triggers, then you can start putting things in place to avoid what those triggers are. And please, if there are any questions as I'm going through, don't hesitate to interrupt me. Okay, put the questions in the chat, unmute, whatever you have to do to get my attention, and I'll answer your questions. So number 3 is to challenge your thoughts. How many of you have been in a situation where you are sitting at your computer and there's this sale sign in front of you, and all of a sudden you start to think, you start to feel your heart is racing a little bit, maybe you're getting a little bit excited because all of a sudden this is something that you want and you want it now, right? Take some time to really notice what it is that's going through your mind. For example, you might think, if I don't buy this now, I'll never get the opportunity to buy it again. Or if I don't buy this now, then it's going to be gone forever. It's going to sell out all over the world forever and ever and ever, right? Or if I don't buy this now, what will I wear to an event coming up in 2 months from now, right? Whatever it is that's coming up for you, it's those thoughts that are driving the adrenaline, the excitement. But many times we're not even aware that we're thinking those things. So when you get into a position where you're feeling tempted to buy, take a deep breath and say, okay, what am I thinking? What am I thinking now? And if it's a case of, oh, if you don't buy it now, you'll never get the opportunity to buy it again, say, okay, hold on, is that really true? How true is that statement? Right? Because many times when we buy things on impulse, it's because we feel like we're never going to get the opportunity to buy it again. Whereas in reality, that's not true. If you really wanted to buy that item, when it's time to buy it, you will get the opportunity to buy it, right? That's usually how it works. You will find a way to buy it. You don't have to buy it now. So this point that I'm trying to make is that usually that excitement that we get as we're trying to buy is because we're telling ourselves that, okay, if you don't buy it now, or you need it now, now is the right time. It's going to be important to really take a look at those thoughts, challenge them, debate it a little bit before giving into that thought. Number 4, be allergic to credit. The issue of access to borrowed money is such a huge challenge for many of us because it gives us a false sense of richness. When you have a credit limit of thousands of dollars, right, it gives you a false sense of the fact that I can afford it, whereas you can't afford it. You can't afford it. And so one thing that I like to think about, I heard somebody say this one time, and I thought it was quite interesting, is just to adopt the idea of being fully allergic to credit. Imagine that your body is going to start itching. Imagine that your throat is going to start closing up, that your eyes are going to start getting red. I mean, I'm being a little bit funny here, but the truth is that the more averse you are to credit, the more you avoid it, the less you're going to give into things that you don't need, right? Some people will actually take it a step further and freeze their credit card, right? They will put their credit card in some water, maybe in a Ziploc bag, and they'll put it in the freezer because they don't want to have easy access to borrowed money, right? If you have to, you might need to clear off your computer, your phone, of all memory of your credit information, because nowadays with one-click purchases, all you have to do is click here, click there. On top of that, many websites have decided to make things quote unquote affordable by breaking them into 3 payments, 4 payments, even 8 payments. And before you know it, you're probably paying, because if you can't afford it now, what's to say that you can afford it over 8 payments, right? If you can't afford it now, in fact, there's a quote that says, if I can't afford to buy it twice, then I can't afford it. So we honestly need to adopt that mentality, that this idea of credit, buying things on credit, especially if you can't pay it off immediately, it's a habit that we all need to drop because it's really not doing us any favors. It's not doing us any favors. So this idea of avoiding credit, whether you have to freeze your credit cards, maybe some people even have to cut up their credit cards altogether, right? Some people have to cut up their credit cards altogether. Do what you have to do, especially if you find yourself really, really giving into this idea of credit. You're overdoing it, you're overspending. Earlier this year, I did a workshop on the secrets to healthy credit. It was the secrets to healthy credit workshop. And in that workshop, I outlined some of the details on how you can maintain a good credit score, right? Many of us are not abiding by those principles of limiting your debt utilization ratio, paying your credit card on time. All of those things are really important because in the long run, that's what's going to help us build our wealth. Now, this can be really helpful for many people, right? When it comes to impulsive spending. When you're telling yourself, I must have it now, I must have it now, give it to me now, I need it now, instead of fighting with yourself and saying, no, you don't need it, don't buy it, no, 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 change that terminology and tell yourself not yet. Instead of saying no, tell yourself not yet. And so what that might look like is you're fighting with yourself over the items in your cart. and you're saying, should I get it? I don't want to get it. Maybe I should get it. Just tell yourself, you know what? Not yet. Come back in 24 hours, right? Come back in 24 hours. And usually by the time that 24 hours passes, that urge, that immediate impulse to buy it will have dissipated. It will have dissipated. And so telling yourself, not yet, not yet, not yet, it's easier for your brain to accept that than staying in the moment, fighting back and forth, arguing with yourself, yes, no, yes, no. Usually when you say not yet, give yourself 24 hours, give yourself even 48 hours before really making the decision. And usually when that amount of time has passed, that immediate urge to make those purchases would have dissolved. It would have disappeared and dissipated. I like this idea a lot because for me personally, this is what has cured my Amazon habit, is to contain the spending. Because I'm not of the philosophy that you should completely restrict yourself of all sorts of things, everything that brings you joy, everything that makes you happy. In fact, I feel like many of us, we don't focus so much on ourselves. Many times when we're either spending on our kids, we're spending on family members, and not necessarily ourselves, right? So I'm not going to tell you, don't do your hair, don't get your nails, don't buy your bag, right? I'm not going to tell you any of that. But I want to make sure that you're doing it in such a way that you are not compromising your financial success, your future. You're not compromising that, right? And what does that look like? It looks like containing your spending. It looks like planning ahead. And so say, for example, Black Friday, everyone looks forward to Black Friday, but you get bombarded with all sorts of different sales, all sorts of different invitations to come and spend money. And of course, this is such a great opportunity to buy certain things that would otherwise have been more expensive. But the idea is that you have to plan ahead of time, okay? You plan ahead of time so that it's no longer impulsive. So say, for example, you know that you would like to replace your appliances, maybe your kids need school uniforms for the next year, or maybe you have been wanting to upgrade your computer, right? These aren't necessarily needs per se. Well, maybe the uniform, but they're not necessarily essential things per se, but they're things that you would like to have. And Black Friday, Cyber Monday is a great opportunity to buy these things because, of course, they're on sale. But it would be a mistake for you to wake up on Black Friday, wake up on Cyber Monday, and start making all these purchases off the cuff. But if you had thought ahead and made a list of the things that you felt would be essential for you, things that you would like to take advantage of the sale of, and then you build up the funds, your Black Friday fund. In fact, last year, one of the challenges that I did with the ladies in my community was we did a holiday spending fund. We started about, I believe it was 12 weeks ahead, and everyone decided how much money that they were going to put aside depending on what they wanted to spend during the season. And so say, for example, you wanted to spend $1,200 during the season on various things, you would have put aside $100 every week over that 12-week period. And so if you do that, if you plan your spending ahead of time and you make sure that you structure it in such a way that you're not going over your planned spending budget, then this time of year will actually be really, really good for you because you'll be able to save money and not go over budget. For me, what I've done with Amazon is what I do now is I spend off of an Amazon gift card. So instead of going whenever I feel like buying an electric fabric shaver, I won't just go and just buy it off the cuff. I'll go into my Amazon gift card. Every month I load a certain amount and that's where I spend off of. So I'm not depriving myself of the joy of spending on Amazon, but I'm containing it into a certain amount of money. And when I go over, then I start to remove things from my cart, right? Once I pass my limit, then I save things for later. I put them in a wish list or whatever, because I've contained the spending based on my predetermined budget. And so the other thing is to make it fun. Make it fun. Like I said earlier, this is all in the mind, right? Our mind, our brains love to do things that are enjoyable. That's why you find us, going back to our social media, whether it's to laugh, whether it's to catch up with friends. That's why you find us going back to shopping, because it's fun, it's enjoyable. So if you can make saving, if you can make containing your spending fun, your brain is going to want to do it again. Your mind is going to want to do it again. And so, one way is to actually track the number of days you have gone without impulsive spending. What you can do is, maybe as the ideas of things that you want to buy come to mind, write them down. Write them down in a list. And then as the days go by where you overcome your impulsive spending, track it, right? Day one, no buy. Day two, no buy. Day three, no buy. And make it colorful. You can make it fun. And what you can even do is, maybe after 2 weeks of not impulsive spending, you can treat yourself. Maybe take a portion of the money that you would have spent impulsively and spend it on something that actually makes you feel good, right? Instead of buying things that are going to sit around the house, they're just going to be a bunch of junk everywhere. Maybe get your nails done. Maybe instead of getting the regular nail polish, you get shellac, right? A way to reward yourself for not buying things wastefully, because now you're spending your money intentionally. Remember, I said this is not about depriving yourself. It's about spending money in a way that makes sense, and in a way that actually makes you feel good, in a way that doesn't make you feel irresponsible, guilty, disappointed in yourself, but in a way that makes you feel good. So if you turn it into some sort of game where you're tracking your saving, you're tracking the days that you don't, maybe today you're thinking about a cute dress, and every time you see the cute dress, you can mark it down. As the days go by, you mark the number of days down that you didn't buy that dress. Maybe there's a different item, you list down the items, track the number of days where you've gone without buying it, and then maybe after 2 weeks or 30 days, treat yourself to something nice, because that, to your mind, is a fun game. It's kind of like a game that it will look forward to, and that will give you the motivation to avoid just spending on impulse. And finally, number 8, talk to someone. There's a quote that I love that says, the antidote to shame is your voice. The antidote to shame is your voice. And so if you find that you have gotten to a point where you are so overwhelmed by overspending, where you feel shameful by all the amount of money that you've spent on things that don't make sense, then connect with someone, whether it's a trusted friend, right? Whether it's, you guys know that I'm available via DM on Instagram. You can always email me and just talk it out, right? Just talk it out, get it off your chest. Because the more you hide it, the more you are ashamed about it, the more you feel guilty, the less you're going to feel good about yourself. The less you're going to feel motivated. And maybe it's just someone to let you know that, what, we all go through times when we fall off the bandwagon. It's okay, right? Now is just a time for you to re-strategize and figure out how to move forward. And so, I mean, we all have areas of our finances where we could be doing better, but I'm hoping that with these strategies that we discussed, that you've been able to pick 1 or 2 things that will get you to a point where maybe one day you actually log into your bank account, there's money left over, you're investing and all of that, and things are looking really, really good, because you've managed to kick the overspending habit to the curb. You've been able to manage it in a way that makes you feel good. And you are spending money, but you're spending it in a way that where you have a plan and you're actually more intentional about it. And so that's it for me. I hope that answers your question. And if there are any other questions, please, please, please bring them forth. I'll be happy to answer them. Oh yeah, I hope that answered your question about Black Friday shopping. Let me know if there's anything that needs further clarification, and I'll be happy to answer it. Hi, ladies. I see a couple of other ladies have joined us. Do you ladies have any questions? Okay, so if there are no further questions, like I say, I'm definitely available by Instagram DMs. You can always email me. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. The replay will be available on our YouTube channel probably tomorrow. And I'm even thinking that what I'm going to do is, in addition to the replay, I'm going to send you the tracker that I use to track my expenses, right? I used to track my income. I used to track my credit card expenses and my other expenses. And that way, if you want to, because step one, remember I said that step one is the awareness piece. Okay, Modele said I should send that. Yeah, I'll definitely send that. And so that way you can start to track your expenses and see where your habits, where is it that you are spending in a way that you're not even really conscious about it. And that's the first step that that you can start when it comes to overspending and impulsive spending. Well, thank you for spending your evening with me. I hope the information was useful. If you have any questions, definitely send me a message. We won't be having a wealth clinic next month. Okay, so Modele asked, where is best to keep emergency funds? So that's a good question. So the best place to keep emergency funds is, first of all, you want a place where if you need the funds, you can access them quickly. Okay, if you need the funds, you can access them quickly. And also, if a place where it's out of sight, right? Because you don't want the money to be too accessible for you to spend on things that are not emergencies. So the first thing that you want to do is actually define what's an emergency, because an emergency will mean different things to different people. An emergency is not, I need a new pair of shoes for whatever. It's not, you have to define an emergency and be very strict with that definition. So something like car issues, emergency travel ticket, etc. I like to keep my emergency money in an online bank account, a high interest savings account. And usually those are online bank accounts. The two that I like are EQ Bank and Simply. EQ Bank and Simply. I have accounts with both of them. Simply right now is just sort of my spending account. So the idea is to take money from our income, putting into the spending account and containing the spending. And EQ Bank is where we have our emergency fund. So our 7 months of emergency money is housed at EQ Bank, because there, at least, there's no fees. The bank doesn't charge us fees, and then it's also earning some interest. But it's not invested, because if the money were to be invested, it would be really hard to access it, God forbid, in the case of an emergency. So that would be my recommendation. Online banks, either EQ Bank or Simply, because those are the ones that I use and I've had really good experiences with them. So I hope that answers your question. You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, ladies, thank you so much for joining me tonight. And so next month, we won't be having any wealth clinics because that's around Christmas. But hopefully, by God's grace, in 2022, we will start our wealth clinics again in January. All right, take care, ladies. Have a great weekend. Bye.